So I have a theory. Which Cape Town suburb is secretly a blue zone?
It's got to be Newlands.
You're right. Absolutely. There's definitely something in the water there. It's the secret to keeping everyone happy and healthy and there for decades. So is it the fountain of youth or is it just the magic of Newlands?
Well, let's discuss that. Welcome everyone to another episode of Seeff the Uppers podcast. I'm Stephen.
And I'm Allana.
And in today's episode, we're going to take a deep dive into everything Newlands. So Allana and myself are the Newlands area specialists for Seeff the Uppers. So today's episode, we're going to be discussing why Newlands tops the buyer's wish list every time, what is happening in the property market at the moment, so a brief snapshot, as well as NCID, and what is happening in the village. So there are a few new additions to the village, and we'll get stuck into that later on, so please stick around. And it's going to be a great episode. Allana, I think let's start off with a lot of buyers and potentially listeners they hear Newlands as a suburb, but they don't necessarily know or understand the pockets within Newlands. So, there are multiple different pockets. So obviously Fernwood being one, Hiddingh, Upper Newlands, Village, Westerford. You being the Village and Westerford Newlands area specialist. Maybe let's start there in terms of what comprises, what makes up the Village and Westerford and the boundaries, etc.
So that's actually one of the things that I love about Newlands, that there are so many different pockets that appeal to, each pocket has its own personality and therefore appeals to different buyers, which is fantastic. So starting with the Village pocket, it's a highly sought after pocket. People absolutely love the fact that they're able to walk to the different cafes, restaurants, top schools, Cavendish Mall. And of course, it's got such a vibrant European village atmosphere, which is lovely.
Yeah. And what defines the Village in terms of the boundaries?
It's positioned in the middle of all those different pockets that you have mentioned. So I would say that it starts from the top of Newlands Avenue, from around Governors all the way to just before Saks. Dean Street would kind of be the defining border. So just before that would be the Village. On the other side would be your Westerford pocket. And that would come all the way down to Esme and Souci. That would kind of define that pocket, with your anchor streets being Kildare, Main Street, Palmboom, and then all the charming little subsidiary streets branching off of that.
And Palmboom is definitely classified, I think, as the Village, probably one of the premier streets within the Village. And on my side, in terms of Fernwood, so Fernwood is kind of everything on the left-hand side of the freeway, on the M3, and that's the differentiating factor there is the Rhodes Drive. So everything above Rhodes Drive is up towards the mountain. So you get sweeping views of the peninsula, just really lovely kind of, you've got access straight into the green belts, a lot of different gates. One in particular is really well visited by the locals, being the Upper Paradise Gate into the mountain on the contour paths. And then you've got below Rhodes Drive, which stretches all the way down to Riverside Road. So traditionally larger earths, you're looking up towards the mountain, so a little bit more sun. As I say, larger earths, north facing, so really lovely kind of family environment. You have the parks, you've got Lesbic River Parkway there too, so a lot to do for families in the area. Of course, then you've also got Hiddingh. So Hiddingh is just next door to the Village, and you do have that walkway along Patterson Street, which kind of connects. So it's at arm's length that you enjoy the Village lifestyle, while still having slightly larger earth size, larger plots, but still, I think what kind of combines all of those pockets is Newlands is still very much a sense of community. And the pillars that underlie the demand for the area are the schools, accessibility to the forests and nature, the greenery, the streets are just laden with lovely trees, which is fantastic. And that kind of, as I said, the demand is far outweighing the supply at the moment. I think maybe that's a nice step into what is happening as a market snapshot in Newlands market at the moment. Maybe you can start with maybe one or two of the stats.
So just before we delve into the market stats, all very exciting and great news all around there for sellers, I just wanted to touch on Westerford, one of the other pockets.
Sorry, how could I forget?
No worries. And Westerford is also a beautiful pocket of Newlands, and it really appeals to families because it has that walkable distance to all the top schools, such as your Sachs and your Westerford and Rustenburg and other top schools. So, of course, that makes it incredibly desirable for families. And then, of course, there's Lower Newlands, and Lower Newlands offers beautiful tree-lined streets, lovely family homes, and incredible value as well, while still maintaining that quintessential Newlands atmosphere.
Absolutely. And I think, again, Dean Street being right on Sachs, the front door. Westerford Pocket is, I think, underrated by a lot of buyers out there.
Yes.
And a lot of buyers don't look at the Westerford Pocket because it's just that side of Sachs or the village, etc. But it's actually, you get fantastic value there, don't you? Which is lovely. So I think let's talk about the market. Take a snapshot. We're not going to take a deep dive, just a nice snapshot into what is happening and what are the buyers, kind of what's their sentiment.
So, snapshot into the market. I'm sure, as you all know and are all aware, that Newlands has seen exceptional growth year on year. And in fact, in just the last 6 months, average sales prices are up a tremendous 44% just from last year, which is quite something.
Yeah, that is absolutely. And on the back end of that, volume is down close to 37%. So it paints a picture, and kind of in layman's terms for the listeners is what's happening is obviously we're still seeing really strong demand throughout the Newlands and the Uppers areas. But what is happening is that the number of sales is down year on year. However, the average selling price has increased by 44%. So what you're basically saying, what we're saying is that if you're a homeowner in the Newlands area, it's a fantastic time to own a property, to have an asset, hold an asset in the area, and potentially be a seller. And, that's kind of where we're wanting to unlock some value to our listeners, to, homeowners in the area, is that if you are listening and if you own in the area, these are great stats. So, I think it's great to always connect with an area specialist such as Allana and myself, and to really guide and advise accordingly. What we can, the fundamentals of Newlands remain the same, as I mentioned previously, is that great schools, proximity into town, the freeway is a quick hop, skip and a jump away. You've got the green spaces, which a lot of other suburbs don't necessarily have. And what we're seeing is that people aren't just buying into Newlands, they're buying into a lifestyle. And around that, something that just can't be replaced ultimately with the community-driven aspect. What are your predictions? And then I'll give my predictions kind of for the future for the Newlands market.
So, Newlands just offers such an exceptional lifestyle. And when people are buying here, they're not just buying a house. They are buying a lifestyle. And that's not something that can be replicated overnight. So certainly don't see the market slowing down anytime. And, buyers have also started to realize that if they wait too long to buy a property, they're more than likely going to end up paying much more for the same type of property in the months and looking ahead. That would be where I would say I can see how it's going. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that if you're a buyer and if you see a property that you like, I think now is the time to strike while the iron is hot, because as you say, if you don't purchase the property now, you'll end up more often than not paying considerably more down the line for that same property or like for like. My prediction, I think, as long as Newlands offers and keeps offering what it does in terms of the fundamentals of the area, and the demand stays incredibly high and coupled with lower supply, I think the market will continue to be resilient. Absolutely. And we'll continue to see a high functioning market and a high performing market for years to come. So I think what's nice is maybe one of the questions that we do get from sellers more often than one does think is, when is the right time to sell? So often I think the perception is that it's easier to sell a property in the summer months where the sun is out, the buyers are active, but maybe you can give some insight as to when is the right time to sell.
So I actually believe that winter is the most underrated time to sell. And I suppose that might surprise people. Yeah. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I tend to agree. So I think, when a buyer is looking and purchasing, I think there are a number of factors that, whether it's a relocation factor, whether it's a divorce factor, schooling, downsizing, upsizing, there are no seasons for those changes in one's lives. So that is always happening, continuously throughout the year. Traditionally and historically speaking, winter has been obviously a slower selling season throughout Newlands. However, in the last 3 to 4 years, we haven't seen that. We've seen it's been a consistent, high demand selling season throughout the year, even, as I say, even throughout those colder, wetter winters in summer. So, my advice would be I think the question is not what season is the best to sell my property, but what competition. And maybe we can discuss a little bit more about the competition that one has as a seller going to the market.
Well, that's exactly it. So, typically there are fewer homes that come to market during the winter months. And this translates into less competition for sellers. Yep. When you only have a few quality homes on the market and so many buyers as we do, you therefore stand a greater likelihood of achieving a full asking price.
Yeah.
And it's a really underrated power move, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I think, you've hit the nail on the head, is that it's not the question of how many other properties are on the market. It's kind of, what are the buyers having a look at ultimately? So buyers, the real buyers out there, the serious buyers, they don't know a different season as to when they should look, when they shouldn't look. They need to find a property, they need to find a home, and that is throughout the year. So, again, I think the fundamental is that if you are a serious seller, it's to ask your agent, who is an area specialist, as to what other competition would my home have on the market if we went to market tomorrow. What are the buyers comparing my property to? Rather than, well, is the sun shining tomorrow, and how many buyers, could you bring if the sun is shining or if it's raining?
Well, exactly. Buyers are looking throughout the year. They don't suddenly stop looking for a house to buy just because it's winter. They're going to carry on looking. These are your motivated buyers. And as soon as the right property comes to the market, they're ready to move.
Yeah.
And then you've also got factors such as relocations, downsizing, needing to move into a school district, school catchment area, whether you've got a growing family. These kind of things happen throughout the year, and doesn't stop just because it's cold and rainy out there.
No, absolutely. And I think, one of the questions that we do get quite a lot from the buyers who are looking out there in the market is, what is the security like within the area? So although we're talking Newlands, I know each and every sub-pocket throughout Newlands does their own community work, whether it's a WhatsApp group, whether it's, local community patrols. But the NCID, which is the Newlands Improvement Community District, they have come together for the last few years, and they really are making a change. And maybe you can just give us and the listeners a bit of an understanding of what they do and the impact that they're having.
Well, it's a collaborative effort that has led to its huge success. You've got the residents of Newlands, you've got the NCID, of course, and the wider community all working towards the same goal of keeping Newlands clean, safe, and beautiful for everyone that lives there.
Yeah, and I think one thing to mention is that it's a collaboration between homeowners and, the NCID, as well as the local security companies, for instance, ADT and other companies who are, not only doing patrols for security, but also, taking out rotten trees, who are cleaning up the parks, who are cleaning up the streets. So it goes far beyond just looking after, the areas for, and in terms of a security aspect. There's a lot more that goes behind the scenes. And as I say, it's a collaboration between homeowner and the NCID. And, I think I've had a look at a few internal documents, and I think the plan that they've got for the future is just fantastic. It really is going to add value. And again, as a buyer looking to purchase into Newlands, it's a big ticking that box. It's a big box tick because, as I say, security is right at the top, if not one of the top, checklists for a buyer. And knowing and having that reassurance for a buyer that they are safe, secure, and the community is doing everything that they can really kind of just helps that. So as we start to wrap up, I think it's fair to say that Newlands is definitely in a league of its own.
It really is. Newlands offers so much. It offers the top schools. It offers that walkable village lifestyle, mountain access, the 15-minute rule where you can get access into town. Everything is close by and easy to get to. So yes, absolutely. And there's that whole blue zone thing going too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, it's evolving. And so are the cafes and restaurants in the village. So maybe you can just give us some insight. What's new? What's happening in the village?
The best. I mean, we really are spoiled for choice here, in and amongst the old local favourites such as Forries, Barristers and Basilicos, for example. We've recently just welcomed the beautiful new Meul bakery.
Lovely.
And yes, we actually had a lovely coffee there and a breakfast the other day. And it was just so amazing to see the hype and the buzz. And it's just been so well supported by the community. Beautiful addition. We've also had the Fishmongers opened recently as well. And then there's much excitement around the Culture Wine Cafe that's opening soon. I think that looks very exciting. It's going to be a beautiful offering. And then, of course, the much-loved Café du Cap. They're busy reimagining a bigger space for the area, and everyone's really looking forward to that opening as well. So it's a really vibrant scene, foodie scene, and it's amazing. We really are spoiled for choice here.
Wow. So, I mean, the residents in Newlands are, as you say, really spoiled for choice. So whether they feel like fish, a pub grub, Meul, which is, I think, a fan favorite. If you're ever on a road trip, you kind of look out for the local Meul.
Exactly.
And have a coffee and a pie or a quiche, whatever tickles your fancy. But yeah, I think Village is really becoming that one-stop shop. So, and I can see why the demand is relentless to be in the Village and surrounding sub-pockets, as we've discussed. And I think, that, again, just draws to what is bringing the buyers and why is Newlands topping the buyer's wish list, because of everything that we've spoken about. Yes. If I'm a buyer out there, I think I would start and stop my property search in Newlands based on, the conversation that we've had. I think it's just lovely that you've got everything from, the forests, the walkability factor, which is amazing. You don't need to necessarily hop in a car and drive anywhere. You can walk. It's a quick stroll down to Barristers or Meul for a coffee, whether it's a meeting or a quick coffee or a breakfast after a cycle in the mountain. And you're quick to the airport, quick to town, CBD for those working, as well as top schools. So it really ticks every box in terms of a search criteria for a buyer out there.
That about wraps it up, Steve. Whether you're looking for an exceptional lifestyle or you're downsizing or you're looking for a family neighborhood, it ticks all the boxes, as you said.
Fantastic. And I think if you're a homeowner in Newlands and if you're thinking of selling this winter, or on the buying front, if you're looking to buy your property, your family a new property in Newlands or surrounding uppers, please reach out to us.
Get in touch with us at Seeff the Uppers for a confidential chat about your property or about your next move. And don't forget to follow us online for market insights, local updates, and of course, the most exciting homes in Cape Town.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See you next time.